And welcome back. African Communities Together is an organization of African immigrants that are fighting for civil rights, opportunity, and a better life for their families right here in the U.S., as well as back in Africa. Now, the organization empowers African immigrants to integrate socially, to get ahead economically, and engage civically. Joining me now is the director of the New York chapter of the African Communities Together, Robert Agyemang, and we thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, I want to thank you for coming and sharing today and being a part as we have this conversation, because when we talk about African families here in the United States, I think there is this perception that all is well. But the truth is that when we deal with a lot of our families and those who've come from Africa and immigrants, there's still a lot of ground that needs to be covered. So I know your organization really tries to step in and also to help in the area of civil rights and just human rights as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. We work towards trying to improve the quality of life for folks who come here and trying to make sure that they have access to the resources that they need, but also that we advocate on behalf of them and build campaigns that will lead to them being able to access quality of life more broadly. So whether it's targeting specific advocacy issues or general issues, we work on all of those.
Give me a little insight into, a person that's coming in, an immigrant from Africa, assimilating to the U.S. culture. How difficult is it for a person that is coming from Africa to really assimilate right here in the U.S.?
It is quite difficult, and it really depends on the region or country that they come from. A lot of the Africans that do come here, there's the difference in just lifestyle, right? There's a way that they live there that they're accustomed to living. And once they get here, everything is different. Sometimes it has to do with the language barrier, right? Sometimes it has to do with the quality of education and the understanding of how services and things like that translate to them, the neighborhood that they live in, the educational system, whether they have children, all these different things, being able to get into the workforce is another barrier sometimes that people encounter. And so there's so many different levels to being able to get to a point where you can say, okay, I feel comfortable, or I feel more, assimilated to being here. I understand being here. Sometimes it takes years of developing the language capabilities, developing what this country would accept educationally to be able to transition into the work or to transition into, community service or things like that. One of the things that helps with that are houses of worship, whether it's the mosque or the churches. They're very helpful in being able to help the person transition to being here, but it is a process in order to get to a level of comfort being here.
Give me a little about your organization, because I know that that's what you do. You help to assimilate, you help to acclimate, providing access to services and resources. But can we dig down a little deeper and share a little bit about how you're helping people get connected?
Absolutely, we can do that. So there's a few things that we work on. One of the is our service with immigration legal services. We have a program, and we have a legal attorney as well as a DOJ accredited representative that helps with folks who come and need access to immigration legal services. That's either free, we give free service, and then also if it's low charge, if it's a particular or specific case that needs to be dealt with, we have partners that we work with, and we're able to refer them to make sure that they get the adequate attention and service that they need. So we do legal services. We also do community services. We have access to different programs through the city. We help people to recognize some programs, whether it's through housing, whether it's cash assistance, whether it's through COVID, there was some COVID assistance for people who encountered that, small business assistance. We help with those things. And we also help with folks who are trying to get access to other resources. So we're a referral hub. We connect them to other organizations who could be helpful in those things as well. So we do a lot of those things. We also have advocacy campaigns that we run in order to help bring awareness to the plight of what's happening to folks in the African communities. And so we've had campaigns based off of increasing language access throughout the state and throughout the city to include more languages that will help a lot of the newer arriving folks to be able to assimilate a little bit easier and quicker. We've developed campaigns built around helping our hair braiders to be able to continue to do their profession at a higher, a higher level and being respected for their work. They encounter some issues with small businesses and things like that. We've built campaigns around that. We've built campaigns around removing electronic monitoring for those who get detained, and also trying to regulate the bail bond space, which is a whole nother level of conversation. But we were successful in getting a bill passed in the state this year addressing those very things. And so we build campaigns, we build advocacy, we also help with service directly to community members as well.
I understand, my experience has taken me over, and I've been over to Africa. And one of the things that really got me was the amount of languages that are actually spoken in Africa. There's a variety of different languages spoken. People are multilingual, and some just have one that they particularly, flow with. However, coming to the United States, English may not always be that language that they are proficient in. How much of a language barrier is it for many that you're seeing and servicing who come from Africa to be able to navigate here in the US with the English language?
English, from my understanding, English might be the most difficult language to learn, just because it is so different from, I guess, the foundational aspects of some of the other languages throughout the world. And so whether it's Latin, French, there's certain fundamental components that allow those languages to kind of translate to each other. But English is more difficult than that, whether it's verb placement and the technicalities of it. And so when folks get here and they don't, they're from a country, maybe a francophone country, or they're not from one of the countries that were colonialized by Britain or the UK, then the transition into learning English being here, and as you get older, the ability to learn language, it kind of becomes more and more difficult. And so, it's a very difficult transition that people have to encounter. And, you take into account everything else that's being transitioned in their lives at that same time, and so it's just a lot. And so it's very difficult.
A little bit about immigration, because I know that's a huge component of what you're facing too. A lot of people, particularly from Africa, especially during the last presidential election, had to deal with the issue of immigration and immigration status. From where you are, talk to me about, has it improved? What are you seeing amongst your clients? How has immigration transcended over the past few years?
Well, for the folks in our community, the immigration hasn't really improved. There's still a lot of hurdles. There's still a lot of, and if we're going to talk, nationally, there's a hesitancy to touch immigration at a larger scale, just because it is such a strong and divisive topic. And so whether it's the president or the Congress or the House of Representatives, they kind of skirt around the issues of immigration, but nobody has really taken the approach to really dealing with comprehensive immigration policy. And so that trickles down, because now, when you're talking about dealing with ICE, or you're talking about dealing with work authority or dealing with all these other aspects, because these things haven't been dealt with, there's still some of the ramifications that trickle out. And so even you think about the DREAM Act or TPS designations for certain countries. These things are still things that we have to work on and that we have to bring awareness to. And so nationally, that's some of the work that we try to do as well, to continue to advocate on behalf of our folks.
Yeah. Employment's a big issue here in the United States. We know the unemployment rate continues to be challenging for Americans, and even more so for immigrants. How are you finding the employment challenge, and what are you doing to really tackle that within your own community?
So employment is been very, very difficult for members in our community. And even if you just think about the national employment rate, and then how it actually increases when we're talking about communities of color in general. And now we talk about the African community, where since COVID has come, and it's destroyed a lot of these small businesses. It's taken away from a lot of the other smaller, lower income opportunities that folks were able to take advantage of. So unemployment is at an extreme high, and it always operating at an extreme high in these communities. So one of the things that we have begun to look deeply into, and we're building a campaign around it, and actually some tangible work around it, is the African wage gap. It's a project that we have encountered where we are looking at the overeducated but underemployed. We're looking at all the different nuances that are encompassing why our folks are either unemployed or not in the properly waged positions for either their experience or their educational level. And we're trying to take steps to improve that.
For people who want to know more about the work that you're doing and who you actually service, somebody might be saying, listen, how do I engage in the services? What are the requirements for those persons who come under your clientele?
Well, we are open to anybody who needs help. If folks are from the Caribbean, if folks are from Mexico or Puerto Rico, we've dealt with and helped folks from all backgrounds, but our focus is always to continue to help elevate and improve the quality of life for the Africans in New York City. We also have a chapter in the DMV area in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, and we're building one in Philadelphia as well. So we have a national work that we also encounter, which a lot of the federal immigration work and policy work it comes from. But we service people from all backgrounds, but we really focus primarily on the African community because there's very little other support for those communities.
What are you hearing and what are you experiencing in the area of family separation? We know that's huge, right? And these are some of the things that have actually happened. But for the African community, what can you tell us about family separation?
Well, family separation happens a lot, whether somebody gets detained or deported because they were detained, expected to be an illegal resident here. Family separation happens quite often. It is something that we strongly oppose, and we think that there should be stronger measures taken to ensure the family sanctity and unity, and continuing to preserve the family unit. There's so much that happens when you take either the father or the mother out of the family unit and you leave the children to a system, to navigate a system without that kind of level of support. If you just think about the folks that are in the foster care system, the children, how they grow up, the things that they have to go through in order to become, I guess, regular contributing citizens as adults, right? Those things are traumatic. And I think that one of the things that we have to acknowledge is the impact that trauma has on both the individual and then the family. And if we do not treat these traumas, then we're just continuing to create more and more issues that systemically cannot be solved. And the community now has to find ways to kind of patchwork through. And the individual is lost, the family gets lost, and a lot is really hard to recover from. So we do need to find stronger avenues to support families and continue to keep families together. And I think that it's atrocious that this is still something that's continuing to happen.
Before we wrap, I want to get an opportunity to just get your thoughts to be able to share with us. What is it that you would want the public to know about African communities as it relates to Africa and the U.S.?
Just that, we are a people that love people. We're not different. We don't, I also want to just make sure people understand when we come here, we're coming here to look for the same things that everyone else is looking for. We want to improve the quality of our life. We want to have great jobs, we want to live in a great neighborhood. We want to access the better things. And so, we're not looking to take anybody's job. We're not looking to take anybody's space. We're just looking to do what can improve things for our family. And that's really it. We're very much similar to each and every other ethnic group that comes here and is looking for the same thing. Nothing is different. And whether we come from Nigeria or Botswana or Congo or Mali, very much the same hope and dream is there. We're a loving people, and that's the way we go about things.
Robert Agyemang, we want to thank you and leave it right there. Thank you so much for being with us here on the Social Justice Forums and the work that continues to go on. Thanks much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.